Hey, Dan, how are you?
I am great tonight. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining this podcast. This is going to be a very interesting podcast because we're actually both doing it remotely, unlike the last time. This is Shri Primo again with the recap of the semifinal for the National Basketball Championship, I mean, College Basketball Championship, along with Dr. Dan Kessler, who was an amazing guest for our Elite Eight and uh, I think the Final Four preview also. So,
Yeah.
Dan, what did you think about both the San Diego State and FAU and UConn and um, I just forgot what I was going to say, but UConn played Miami. So there you go. But anyway, since we're doing it live and remotely, this is going to be a little glitchy, but I think we'll get through this thing. So, what did you think about both these matches yesterday before we go on to the national championship tomorrow between UConn and San Diego State?
Yeah. So first game, San Diego State versus FAU, the game with two relative unknowns this whole year that have just made an amazing run during the March Madness. It played out a little differently than I thought. I thought it would be a real close game the whole time, but it seemed like FAU just kind of for some reason just pulled ahead. I don't know if San Diego State, if their defense was a little off, or FAU just was really just maybe shooting a little higher percentage than we had seen earlier. But they had a nice comfortable lead for most of the game, and I just did not think that. San Diego State was going to make that run. It seemed like whenever they cut it to 7 or 8, FAU pushed it back up. But somehow at the end, the last 5-6 minutes of the game were kind of both choppy on both ends. They're just real. Neither team could really execute that well. And San Diego State took advantage of that just to kind of make a few key opportune shots. And kind of just pull ahead. Or they didn't pull ahead till the very end. That amazing buzzer beater at the very end. And yeah, so probably the most dramatic game so far in March Madness, having a Final Four game come down to a buzzer beater. But yes, what do you think, Sri?
Yeah, I think one thing I've seen with San Diego State is that they've been down against the last three opponents. One was against Alabama, one was against Creighton, and then against FAU. Interestingly, their defense clamped down on FAU, but this game could have gone either way. I think FAU still had the game in their hand. Uh, I mean, and San Diego State just made a dramatic shot to finish it. And I agree with you, this was probably one of the best finishes in a Final Four that I can remember in a long time. Buzzer beaters don't happen. I mean, they do happen, but I do think in the Final Four, typically, I think this is one of those things. This is one of those matchups that we've seen in the past with like a Leitner hitting those buzzer beater shots and things like that. So I think to your point, I think we'll get to the actual preview for the final. I think their defense is something to be reckoned with. Now let's come to the my alma mater, UConn Huskies, that played Miami, and coached by Larinaga. What did you think about that? And UConn has been complete domination the last 3 or 4 games. So what did you think about that? And then we'll get to our preview for the final.
Blown away at the start of the game. The way it started, it was just incredible with Hawkins, who had the flu, I think, right the day before, making that first 3-pointer to put him up 3-0. And then next thing you know, Sonogo, right? So,
Yep.
Sonogo, fill me up. He hit the next two threes, and I think he's made only what he's definitely improved as a 3-point shooter compared to his last 2 seasons. But I think he made 17 3-pointers all season, right? I think
Right.
he three or two in a row to put him up 9-0, and it looks like it's gonna be a blowout. And UConn had a pretty starting the game where they were up, and then I think it was knotted up at 19 all. Miami made a nice run to tie it up at 19 apiece, I believe. And then after
Yep.
that, once again, UConn just kind of went on a big run. The rest of the half up till halftime, kind of capped by the 3-pointer at the end of the first half by Caravan, right?
Taliban. Yep.
Yeah, he made that nice three at the end, and yeah, it was just like typical goal, kind of what we expected. UConn just amazing athleticism. So many athletes on that roster, from Newton to Andre Jackson, Hawkins, and then you got the two big guys. They can go down low on you with Sonogo. Every time he touched the ball, something good happened. As my friend Pete Sutmeyer kept on saying, he said, "Get it to Sonogo. Every time you get it to him, something good happens." And and then Klingon, he was just solid for a freshman. My God, he's looking great down there. And then the second half was more of the same. Miami did make a game of it, just enough to kind of make my friend over here Sri nervous a little bit. They got single digits a few times, but whenever it got close, UConn just made a key bucket and went up, pushed it back to 12, 13, 14 points, and then just kind of nursed it to the end and had a nice victory once again.
Yeah, I agree. It was definitely a little nerves, but I do think that having text chats with a lot of UConn friends, and they were not too concerned about it. I guess I think as a UConn alum or anybody for that matter, I think you tend to be nervous when the game is too close. But I think UConn, like I said, complete domination during this tournament. I think let's come to the national championship now, which is tomorrow night around. I think probably going to tip off around this time. 24 hours from now. I think UConn, is predicted to win. And, let's see, they're favored to win by about 7.5 points or something like that. So what do you think are the key, factors that UConn victory, and also maybe how San Diego State could pull off an upset here?
Yeah, I mean, I think every team would love to know how to beat UConn. It's been, like I said, the last 5 games in a row, they've looked unbeatable. But, San Diego State, I think, along with UConn, probably has the best defense, field goal percentage wise and points wise in this tournament. San Diego State just neutralized, as well as UConn, so many good offenses. UConn shut down Gonzaga, one of the best offenses, and then Miami also ranked one of the best offenses efficiency wise. So I'm hoping this turns into a defensive battle and it stays close. But I just see UConn as just having too many options and too many weapons. And if you shut down one guy, I think someone else is going to come through. So it's like, can you really stop four or five guys when you have that many good options? That's the question. But San Diego State's proven they can get physical with you. So I once again I give the edge to UConn. I put my money on UConn, but I think this could be a close game.
I agree with you, Dan. I think when you think that everything is going to go one way, there's going to be some surprises for sure. And San Diego State is I think having seen them this tournament, I don't think we saw a single game of San Diego State prior to the tournament. And for me to see them in action against good quality teams, whether it's Creighton, which is a great Big East team, and Alabama, which was the overall number one seed. They just took them down. And FAU, it was a close game, and they kind of, I would say, lucked out by hitting that buzzer beater. I definitely think San Diego State. I just saw a stat there. They limited Alabama to 3 for 27 and 3 points. They're going to let UConn try to beat them on the threes. They got I think his name is Mensah. I think he's one of the best defensive guys in the perimeter. They got Matt Bradley, who's a solid player. One concern for San Diego State could be their scoring. Can they score enough to match UConn? But if they can prevent UConn from transition game and then get them into a more half-court game, I definitely think San Diego State has a talent and has the defense to come up with what could be an amazing upset for them and could be their first national championship. So looks like we're both going with UConn. In a close game. Let's see if that happens. I certainly would be happy, but again, I will be for the next 3 hours from 9 o'clock tomorrow for 3 hours. I'm going to be on pins and needles for sure.
Yeah, one thing I'd like to mention, I was looking up. This is just a historical fact, and just to speak to how the men's basketball team. We know the women's is a dynasty. Up until the last 4 or 5 years, they were an unbeatable juggernaut. But I looked up total national championships by school, and you got my alma mater, UCLA, at the top, obviously winning all those championships under John Wooden, and then you have Kentucky and North Carolina, I believe, with 6 and 5, I think, respectively. And then if UConn wins this game tomorrow night, you got them right up there with 5, right below North Carolina and Kentucky, and right up there with, fourth overall in all of college basketball. That's something, It's quite amazing.
It's a great group to be in. That's a great group to be in. So I think this is great, Dan. I think we certainly, we did the podcast. This was remote. I know I apologize if we had any glitches during this, but I do definitely think that we pulled it off. And thank you again for your detailed assessment. And hopefully we're both right. And hopefully UConn cuts down the nets tomorrow and one shining moment plays. And I know we wanted to do another, I would say, a tribute to Jim Nance, who would be calling his last game. So I definitely want to mention that. And he'll be flying off to the Masters after the one shining moment. So looking forward to that.
All right. Well, thank you.
All right.
Nice
Thank
to join.
you so much, man. Appreciate it.
Bye.